breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends. We're going to be chatting it up with Ben Wilson, who does such great work over here at VSIN. His play-by-play work is second to none. He, much like myself, a man from the great state of Wisconsin, so we're going to be taking a look at what we've seen here in the NL Central over the last few weeks. We're going to chat with them about the Brewers getting reinforcements in their lineup, what to make out of Kyle Harrison, who gets a start today, and a few teams that might be doing for a little bit of positive/negative regression. We'll take a look at the Cubs, how they've been able to get off to this hot start to the season, is what the Cardinals doing sustainable, and so much more in the final segment. I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, there's the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Got in a good Twitter/X question today. We don't get in too many of these, so always like them. From Vic Tenetta, hopefully I got that correct. I'm sorry if I butchered the last name, but he was asking, what sort of adjustments do you make other than when the starting pitcher is changed? Because he was noticing that I don't make a lot of moves when things are not involving a starting pitcher being moved, and it's a case where typically I will set my numbers. If you look at the daily handicap spreadsheet that I post up on my Twitter/X feed and pin up, I typically have my initial line set about 5 to 6 days in advance. Typically, a lot of the moves come about 24 to 48 hours in advance because typically you do have the overnight numbers coming out before you see the game before. But what I tried to do is typically I'm going to be up like 4, 5 a.m. Eastern time, taking a look at the bullpen usage from the last few days. You'll notice with the game breakdowns, whenever I'm on this podcast, I always highlight the guys that did throw in the bullpen. I'm utilizing that for bullpen availability, and we haven't had a lot of rain delays. We haven't had a lot of extra innings over the first few weeks of the season. That certainly gets taken into account as well, but the bullpen use is typically the biggest one, and whenever you get like some 3-4 hour rain delay, I always do try to be able to attribute that into there. And whenever we have a double dip, typically you'll know about that in advance. Like if there's a game that's rained out for Tuesday, I know that Wednesday is going to be a doubleheader. The handicap for Thursday, that's already edited on Tuesday. So I'm trying to get ahead of the game so that way when the opening lines come out, like this is a podcast that comes out for Thursday, I already want my Friday handicaps to be already good, set to go when those Friday openers come out. So that's a big thing. The adjustments are typically made throughout the middle of the week, like 2 to 3 days in advance, so that way I know exactly what I'm going to be able to get with regards to those openers, know where the value is, and then when there is the last second things, I do adjust, but we just haven't had a lot of those rain delays, unlike in past years. We haven't had a lot of just murky schedule spots and murky travel situations, and typically those come a little bit more towards the summertime, so the adjustments are being made. Typically they're made more like 36 to 48 hours in advance rather than 12 to 24 hours in advance, because I always try to stay ahead of things. So that's a big way that I try to operate there, and how we try to operate on this podcast is by taking a look at all that we're getting in baseball and recapping everything from the previous day. So let's take a look back at what we got on the card on Wednesday, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Yeah, this was not good for the New York Yankees. They fall to the Baltimore Orioles by a count of 7-0. Kyle Bradish was tremendous here for the Orioles. 1 hit allowed in 6 shutout innings. Keegan Aiken, Dietrich Hens, Ynier Cano, don't you know these guys all gave you a scoreless inning. Max Fried, he was yanked from this start. He was dealing with some, I believe it was like elbow soreness. He was dealing with some injuries, so they're hopeful that he's going to make his next start, but he was yanked after 3 innings, gave up 3 runs. From there, Paul Blackburn walked the plank. He gave up 3 runs over the course of 2 innings, including a bomb to Adley Rutschman, 6th home run of the campaign. Ryan Yarbrough from there, 1 run allowed in 3 innings, but for the Yankees, 1 total hit in this game. That's not what you expect from the Bronx Bombers, and What you don't expect here is a lot of wins for the LA Angels, and shock, surprise, surprise, they lost again. Cleveland Guardians get the job done by a count of 4-2. Parker Messick, 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. He does give up home run to Zach Neto, 7th home run in the campaign. From there, Matt Fessa, Hedy Fiesta out of the bullpen Squirrels. Kate Smith, Eric Sabrowski, both on his Squirrels inning, and Reed Detmers, 4 runs, 3 of which were earned in 5 2/3 innings as Ano Martinez, 7th home run in the campaign. Sam Bachman from there, 4 outs out of the bullpen Squirrels. Ryan Zephyrian, Squirrels inning, but by then the damage had been done, and the Colorado Rockies were able to do a lot of damage to the Pittsburgh Pirates. 10-4, they get the job done as Mitch Keller, worst start of the season for him. He lasts 5 2/3 innings, but gives up 6 runs, all of which were earned. For the Rockies, they had themselves a 6-run 5th inning, so a lot of it came towards those middle innings. From there, you did have Justin Lawrence give up 3 unearned runs in an inning. It was all because of his own throwing error, so in my opinion, he should be charged for those runs, but that's a discussion for a different podcast on a different day. Brandon Bedois, hopefully I got that correct. He's a man from Brisbane, Australia. It's Dois on the end, so it might be a silent S or something like that, but he made his MLB debut. He gave up a run in an inning, so a great showing for the man down under. Evan Sisk, 4 outs out of the bullpen Squirrels, and Jose Quintana, not long for this game, 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in 4 innings, but bullpen was solid. Jane Nill, Brandon Bernardino both give you a Squirrels inning, and Antonio Senzatella. He does give up a solo home run, but gives up just 1 run in 3 innings, taken deep by one Mr. Ryan O'Hearn, 6th home run of the campaign. This team was able to go deep quite a bit. The Washington Nationals, 8-7. They get the job done over the Cincinnati Reds. For the Reds, by the way, I know that it was early on in the game, but they got up 5-0 after the first inning, and then from there, it just toilet bowled, as it was a called home run that was also deemed fan interference that really cost the Cincinnati Reds in the 10th inning as well. So that was a little bit of robbery for Spencer Steer there, as for Jake Irvin, 6 runs, 5 of which weren't given up in 3 innings, all pretty much coming in that first inning, as Tyler Stevenson took him deep, 3rd home run in the campaign. Bullpen from there for the Nationals was very good. Mitchell Parker, 3 shutout innings. Richard Lovelady, Orlando Rebalta, Gus Farland all in a squirrel inning. PJ Poulin gives up that run in the 10th inning that is unearned since the man started on second base. And for Nick Lodolo, well, you got to be feeling pretty low about him. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, gives up a home run in this one to Keibert Ruiz, 3rd home run in the campaign. Then Dallin Lyle in the 10th inning off of Tony Santillan, 6th home run in the campaign for Santillan, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, give it up in that 10th. TJ Antone, he goes 2 innings, he gives up a run. Brock and Roll Burke, 2 scoreless innings, and then Graham Ashcraft, not a load of Ashcraft, he supplied a scoreless inning. Boston Red Sox starting to get a little bit more online. 3-1, they take down the Philadelphia Phillies. Andrew Painter was solid in this start. Gives up a home run over the course of 5 innings. Taken deep by Trevor Story. 3rd home run is chapter of home runs this season, so it means there ain't more chapters there. And then Cedon Rafael off of Orion Kirkering. 4th home run of the campaign. Kirkering gives up that home run in a 3rd of an inning. Tanner Banks, he goes 2/3 of an inning. He gives up a run. Brad Keller, Tim Mesa, both on his scoreless inning, but Sonny Gray, it was a sunny day for him. He does give up home run to Justin Crawford. 2nd home run in the campaign. That's all you'd give up in 6 innings. From there, Justin Slayton, Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman, they're all able to turn scoreless innings. Lots of scoreless innings turned by the Atlanta Braves. 4-1, they're able to take down the Chicago Cubs. For the Cubs, Shota Imanaga, pretty solid start here. 2 runs allowed over the course of 7 innings, was taken deep by Drake Baldwin, 11th home run in the campaign, and then Mauricio Dubon off of Phil Matone, his 3rd home run in the campaign. Matone gives up 2 runs in an inning, and now is rocking an 8.44 ERA. Not great there. And J.R. Ritchie was not long for the start, gives up 1 run over the course of 4 1/3 innings, and the bullpen from there had his back. How about Martin Perez, Dylan Lee, Robert Suarez, Raciel Iglesias, all turning a scoreless inning, and Tyler Kinley, pair of outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. So the Braves, 30-13, best record out there in the National League, and best record in the American League. That's currently the Tampa Bay Rays, but they do fall on this day to the Toronto Blue Jays. 5-3 the final. The Blue Jays walk-off home run in the 10th inning from Dalton Varsho, his 5th home run of the campaign. And man, if you had the under in this game, this was a game that was 1-1 going into the 10th inning. Rays put up a 2 spot in the 10th inning, and then from there, the Blue Jays have Varsho with that walk-off grand slam to end it. As Griffin Jacks, he didn't get jaxed up. He goes 5 shutout innings. From there, Hunter Biggie a scoreless inning. Kirk Clevenger, Kevin Kelly combined for a scoreless inning. Brian Baker from there gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Cole Sulzer for outside the bullpen scoreless, and then he had 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, given up by Aaron Brooks. No, not the former quarterback of the Raiders and the New Orleans Saints. And at this point, they probably wanted him in the game at that point. Dylan Cease, well, he was solid in the start for the Blue Jays. 1 run allowed over the course of 7 innings. Louis Varland is scoreless inning, and then you had Tyler Rogers, Mason Flaherty combined for a scoreless inning. John Hoffman gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in the 10th inning, but he gets bailed out by the offense. And A man that definitely bailed out his team, that'd be Gavin Sheets. The Padres win by a count of 3-1 as they were down 1-0 in the ninth inning, down to their final out. Gavin Sheets, with 2 men on, gets his 6th home run of the season off of Abner Uribe, who wastes what was a really good start from Jacob Mizorowski. Mizorowski, no walks, 10 punch-outs, and 7 shutout innings. Aaron Ashby, a scoreless inning, and then Uribe, 3 runs allowed in an inning. He's been a little bit up and down this year. And Michael King, he has been a king for the Padres. 5 2/3 innings, he allows just 1 run. Brewers go 1 of 10 with men in scoring position in this one. Jason Adam, Mason Miller, scoreless 8th and 9th innings, and Jeremiah Estrada, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless, so much needed win for the Pods. For the Metropolitans, they found a way into the winner's circle as well. They get a 3-2 win in 10 innings over the Detroit Tigers. Tigers, 11 men left on base, and they squander a pretty good start here from Framber Valdez. 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Christian Scott, he gives up 7 hits, 2 walks, and 4 2/3 innings, but only 2 runs, and from there the bullpen was solid. Devin Williams, Luke Weaver both supply a scoreless inning. Oscar Brisbane, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Brooks Raley does not go off the Rayleys, a scoreless 10th inning, so the Mets, they find a way to get it done as Carson Benjay, RBI single to be able to get that one in for them. Being able to get this one in, the Chicago White Sox. 6-5, they take down the Kansas City Royals. For Noah Schultz, not his best start. 3 runs allowed over the course of 4 1/3 innings. I talked up his command yesterday, and he walked 5, but bullpen at his back. Seranthony Dominguez does give up a pair of runs in the 9th inning, including a home run to Bobby Witt Jr., 7th home run season, but you did have Jordan Hicks, Sean Newcomb supply a scoreless inning apiece. Tyler Davis, 5 outside the bullpen scoreless, and Seth Lugo appears as though he's starting to experience some regression. 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Steven Cruz from there, a scoreless inning along with Alex Lang. John Schreiber gives up a home run to Colson Montgomery, 11th home run of the season. So White Sox back to 500 at 21-21. So give a little bit of credit there. The Miami Marlins, they find a way to get it done against the Minnesota Twins 9-5 as Max Meyer, he does give up 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, was taken deep twice. Byron Buxton just on a tear right now. Home runs number 14 and 15 of the campaign, but Simeon Woods Richardson was far worse. 8 runs, 6 of which were earned in 3 innings, taken deep by Owen Casey, who's had pretty miserable start to the season. He's got his 3rd home run of the campaign from there. Justin Topa was able to give you a 5 outside the bullpen scoreless. Luis Garcia, 2 scoreless innings. Travis Adam, he gives up a run over the course of his 2 1/3 innings, but by then the damage had been done. And then Tyler Phillips, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. John King was the king of being able to give you a scoreless inning, and then Josh Eknes from there was able to polish off the 9th inning. At long last for the Dodgers, they were able to get back online as Shohei Ohtani, a nice gem here, 4-0. The Dodgers get the job done. Pair of home runs. Santiago Espinal is first of the campaign. Mookie Betts is third. They both come in the 3rd inning off of Robbie Ray. It was more like Robbie Boo in this game. 4 runs, 3 of which were earned, allowed in 4 2/3 innings. From there, Yoel Piguero, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Tristan Beck was able to polish off 2 shutout innings, but how about Shohei Ohtani? 8 punch-outs, 7 shutout innings out of him. Tanner Scott, along with the Kyle Hurt, they were both able to supply a scoreless inning. Being able to supply a lot of scoreless innings as well. The Athletics, we've been seeing a few unders out there in Sacramento. 6-2. They get it done against the St. Louis Cardinals. JT Ginn and Juice, 1 unearned run allowed in 6 innings. Quite fortunate, he allowed 9 hits, but he kept it clean. From there, Hogan Harris, Justin Sterner, they combined to give up an unearned run in their inning of work. From there, Luis Medina, Jack Perkins, they both supply a scoreless inning, and Matthew Liberatore continuing to struggle. 4 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, taken deep by Nick Kurtz, 6th home run in the campaign, and then Zach Law, 4th home run of the season. That comes off of Gordon Gassefo. Gassefo gives up that home run in 1 2/3 innings of work. Matt Savance at a scoreless inning. Justin Brule, he was able to get an out of the bullpen scoreless. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, Paul Sewald happened. 6-5, the Rangers get the win in what was a wild 9th inning. If you had the under in this game, man, that is rough. This game was 3-2 going into the top of the 9th inning. From there, the Arizona Diamondbacks get to Jacob Latz as Cooper Rocker solid in this game. 5 shutout innings. He did walk 4, but kept it clean from there. Cole Winn gives up a run in an inning. Jalen Beeks, a run given up in a 1/3 of an inning. You had a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless from Mr. Gray, Peyton Gray, and then a scoreless inning of Tyler Alexander to set up Jacob Latz, who gives up 3 runs without getting it out of the bullpen. Cal Quantrill has to clean up his mess. He was able to get 3 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And Ryan Nelson, not awful here for Arizona, does give up a home run to Jake Berger, 7th home run of the campaign, but he gives up 3 runs over the course of 7 innings. Kevin Ginkel, a scoreless inning, and then Paul Sewald, 2/3 of an inning, gives up 3 runs. Juan Murillo had to inherit the mess of Paul Sewald, unable to keep them on as it was Danny Jansen's RBI single that got the Rangers a victory. And Also getting to victory, the Houston Astros, 4-3. They take down the Seattle Mariners in 10 innings. For Seattle, Bryce Miller makes his first start of the season and looked pretty solid here. 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Does allow a home run to Christian Walker, 10th home run of the campaign. From there, Cooper Criswell, pair of outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Nick Davila was able to give you a squirrel setting. Edward Bizardo, unearned run given up in 2/3 of an inning of work. It was on his own throwing error, though. And Josh Simpson out of the bullpen squirrels. Andres Munoz, a squirrel 9th inning. And then in the 10th, Alex Hoppe, not so happy about the fact that he gave up the ghost runner. It was a RBI single by Zach Cole that ended the game. And for Lance McCullers Jr., pretty solid start here. He does give up 2 home runs, but both were of the solo variety. 2 solo home runs given up in 5 1/3 innings as J.P. Crawford, 5th home run of the campaign. Luke Raley, his 9th. From there, though, Steven Okert, Anya de los Santos both give you 4 outs out of the bullpen squirrels. Brian King was the king of giving up a run in the 9th inning, but Brian Tabarreu squirrel's 10th inning for the Astros to be able to get back online. And if you're taking a look at what we've all seen in Major League Baseball this season, the unders are starting to have a comeback. It's still been an overwhelming season, 316 overs, 309 unders, and Matt serves me correct, 16 pushes, with favorites hitting at 56% overall for the season, 351 and 276 on the money line. But look at the last 7 days. Under rate 62.5%, 55 unders, 33 overs, and a push along the way. Meanwhile, favorites hitting at about 55.3% in this time span, 47 and 38 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, let's chat it up with our good friend Ben Wilson, who does amazing work here at VSIN, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. With myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSIN family of podcasts.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN family podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Ben Wilson aboard. He's doing such an amazing job looking at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He does a great job on the tennis front. One of the best play-by-play men that you're going to find, whether he's doing college baseball, college basketball, indoor football, G League basketball. Heck, I'm sure that if they had pro bowlers out here in Las Vegas, he'd do a great job there. I'm a former bowler myself, so I always have appreciation for that, and I always have appreciation for Ben, who you're able to follow on the old Twitter /X at his first name Ben, and underscore his last name Wilson, and underscore after that, and then the number 1 altogether. And Ben, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Hey, I don't know that PBA is on my current bucket list of broadcasts. However, if you gave me the opportunity, I mean, how am I going to turn that down? I would love nothing more, Greg. Always great to be on with you, my friend.
I always loved Rob Stone on the broadcasts of those ESPN bowling tournaments like a decade or so ago. Man, I think you would absolutely tear it up there, just like you tear it up in the great game of baseball. And just what have you made out of the first? Now we're about 6 or 7 weeks through the season, because the NL Central still has all these teams above 500, and well, the American League has fewer teams above 500 than the National League Central.
It is pretty fascinating. I mean, we're now, I think, to the point, too, where we're almost at the 50-game mark. I mean, pretty good sample size going here. And what I've noticed in particular is there's a lot of teams that, there's one that comes to mind just out of the, off the top. It's the Texas Rangers, who's just one of several of these teams kind of muddling around 500. They've been really hard to find a feel as far as betting on or against, right? Because they either do one thing really well, and in the Rangers case, until Nathan Eovaldi got his start scratch Monday and threw some uncertainty into the rotation. It had been a pretty solid rotation, but the hitting, I mean, it's like bottom 10 across the board, and they are far from the only team you can say that about. So I look at that as sort of a theme to this point of the season, where you've got a lot of teams, and even the teams that are playing good baseball, take a New York Yankee team, for example, top of the AL East, looking rock solid. All of a sudden they go into Milwaukee and look like they couldn't do anything right for 3 days and look completely unbecoming of a potential AL pennant candidate. If you hadn't watched a single Yankees game, you would think, oh, wow, what a disaster of a season they're having, if you'd only watched that series. And I think that is probably a really good microcosm for where we're at so far. Dodgers obviously fall into that category, as well as a team that for the first time, and it feels like eons, is not in first place as it currently stands.
Yep, absolutely. It's been interesting to take a look at some of these teams, and the Brewers have been one of those teams that have been a little bit up and down, but how do you take a look at them now that they've got Andrew Vaughn back, now that they're getting Christian Yelich back as well, just returned for this upcoming season, Jackson Chourio, because they were, in my opinion, doing more than treading water without those guys. Now you get three of arguably your top five bats back, and they were 500, above 500 without them.
No doubt. It's certainly a team that has shown a lot of the same characteristics as they did last year. And remember, it was a pretty tame start for Milwaukee in 2025, right? They had a couple of closed-door meetings. It didn't look all that comfortable for them, and they started to get hot several times. They never really got cold after about this time of the year, but we're seeing that right now, and they're doing it. The hitting is one thing, and you sort of figured, okay, this has always been a sort of organization that prides itself on depth and having a lot of options, and we've seen how that has made up for the losses of the Churios, Yelich's, Vaughns of the world being shelved. Now they're back, obviously a plus, but to me, it's more on the pitching side, where I think since the last time you and I talked, Greg, you had Brandon Woodruff. We were already a little concerned about the lack of velocity. Well, then his next start, he couldn't even get over 84. He's on the IL, and who knows how long he'll be out. It doesn't seem like Quinn Priester's rehab is progressing anywhere close to the way that the team would have hoped. This is a guy I thought would be back probably first week of May, and we'll probably be lucky to see him, I would say, anytime in early to mid-June, the way this thing is trending. So those are two very massive pieces. You'd already lost your ace from last year in Freddie Peralta going to the Mets, and yet they're just finding a way here. And I think Brandon Sprott has started to turn a corner, who's been a guy, as we have discussed in the past, it was a little bit odd where the inconsistencies and hard to sort of pin down what was getting him in trouble. But to me, that's a pitcher who is getting in the range of being more trustworthy just from a every fifth day betting perspective. And the rest of the bullpen, after some early struggles, to me, Trevor McGill has looked a lot better, has looked more like the 2025 form of himself now in a setup role. Abner Uribe looks solid. So there's a lot of things starting to come together here for Milwaukee. And on the pitching front, that is the bigger thing I've been focusing on, with 3 of your 5 starters from the end of last year currently either not on the team or on the IL.
Yep, and how about the man that is going to be going on Thursday as well? As we've got Ben Wilson, who does great work here at VSiN, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. It has been a great season for Kyle Harrison, and I almost feel like he's one of the victims of how great Jacob Misiorowski has been in all the strikeouts, because for Harrison, he's been only a notch worse than Misiorowski. Heck, you take a look at the ERA, darn near equal going into the day on Wednesday. He's going to be a pretty nice size favorite here against Griffin Canning and the Padres right now, seeing minus 135, minus 140. How do you take a look at for one Thursday's game? And two, Kyle Harrison, who I always was a believer in when he was with the Giants, when he was with the Red Sox, and the Brewers seem to have really unlocked all that potential.
I guess it's a lesson for the Boston Red Sox front office. Just stop doing trades with Milwaukee.
Caleb Durbin, not working out well for them.
But going all the way back to Tyler Thornburg, I mean, did Tyler Thornburg ever pitch like 50 more innings in the big leagues after that trade? I mean, think about how long it has been now that the Brewers have just been fleecing the Red Sox in these sorts of trades. Not to besmirch the good name of Tyler Thornburg, who, fun fact, I was actually at his MLB debut. But the point being, aside from all that and the weirdness of these Red Sox Brewer trades over the last few years, I mean, Harrison's stuff, like it has gone to a level where I'm not sure even the most gung-ho supporter of his, even with a lot of positive things he'd done in the past, would have thought this was coming. But at the same time, I don't have reason to believe that it isn't sustainable or that it's going to just naturally come crashing back down to earth. I mean, what Harrison's doing, the swing and miss is obvious. When you watch him, he has such a good command of the zone, and it kind of speaks to the development that Chris Hook has as their pitching coach, where they get such quality out of the secondary pitches while at the same time honing in the best elements of a particular pitcher's game. And to me, Harrison is the best example of that, where it's not like they've said, hey, you need to get away from your fastball. It's got a tremendous amount of life on it. It's really difficult for both lefties and righties to square up. He loves to come in on the lefties with that tailing fastball and go away from righties. And both sides of the plate have tons of issues trying to hit it. It's more of let's lean into your strengths, but also support them with some better, just I think more optimal pitch selection. And that's what, to me, is something that once you kind of get that and you get the confidence that's coming along with it, I don't see that really going anywhere. There certainly could be some bumps along the way and some rocky outings, but this is a guy I'd 100% be in buy-on mode here if I didn't have any shares or hadn't bet at all in these every fifth day outings here for Harrison so far.
Yeah, he has been great this far this season. I've loved what I've seen out of him. And certainly we've hit upon the Brewers, but how do you take a look at the rest of the division? Because the Reds have that negative run differential, and going into the day on Wednesday, I believe that they had lost 9 out of their last 11, so it seems to be coming back to earth for them. Cubs having a little bit of a rough go of it in this series against the Atlanta Braves. Then again, everyone's having a tough time with the Atlanta Braves, but how do you look at the rest of the teams in this division, including a Pirates team that feels like it's been a little bit up and down for them the last few weeks as well?
When Paul Skeens is going, it's all good. When he's not going, all bets are off for Pittsburgh. And I think that's, as much as that's, you don't want to lump teams into a certain stereotype, that is a pretty fair characteristic of where Pittsburgh is at. I do just want to laugh at myself for having multiple times been making the case for, all right, Matthew Boyd, numbers are bad, but I still kind of believe. And then the last time I mentioned it, he had like one okay start, and he comes out and somehow injures himself playing with his kids, and he's back on the IL. So I just feel like I would be just doing
weird baseball injuries. That's like Exhibit A.
And look, and for the Cubs, it's sort of baffling to me, their strategy. And I know they don't want to, it seems like they don't want to commit necessarily, and they want to keep, Craig Counsell has always been of the out-getter variety. He doesn't really like having these strict roles, so to speak. That was going all the way back to his days as the Brewer manager. But I am a little bit surprised that they haven't been an opportunity for some of these arms who are very talented and young to get stretched out a little bit. Maybe they're playing the long game, but it makes it really hard to just trust the Cubs when you have no idea. Really, outside of the show that Imanaga starts, Jameson Tylen's been pretty good. But outside of those couple guys, like, who do you really rely on going deep into a game if you are backing the Cubs in any of these spots? I think that's a really hard calculation to try to figure out. And yet again, it kind of speaks to what we started the conversation about, Greg, which is that in this sort of whack-a-mole season, there have just been so many examples of that where it is really hard to pin down the actual sort of identities of specific teams. And I'd say the Cubs probably at least half, you could argue 60% of their games are in exactly that sort of category.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And I do think that there's a little bit of regression coming for the Cubs. You mentioned Jameson Taillon has been solid, but look at the fielding independent numbers. That could be regressing quite a bit sooner rather than later. So I've got a little bit of fear there, but no doubt about it. It's been a great season in the NL Central thus far. And how do you take a look at the Cardinals? Because I don't know how Michael McGreevy continues to go out there and get the job done. He's going to be going on Thursday. He doesn't get a lot of strikeouts, but he really doesn't hurt himself. Jordan Walker's been solid. It's not a Cardinals team I think is going to be able to make the postseason, but I feel like they've been a really pleasant surprise. And they've got guys like Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt that maybe they're not amazing hitters, but they just find a way to move the line.
Yeah, it is funny you say that, just because from the times I've watched St. Louis, it's sort of, and you never know. You look at the numbers and you think, okay, this might be the sort of way I think about this team. And will it actually reflect reality? It kind of takes actually watching them to get an idea. But it's funny, when you watch St. Louis, you don't find yourself particularly blown away or overly impressed. Yet at the same time, you look up and they're in pretty much every game. The pitching does enough. Even for some of the guys who have maybe outperformed some of their previous career numbers, like an Andre Palante's strung together a couple of quality outings. Yet, you look up and down and you go, okay, I'm still not really buying this long term. Yet, I think it's the classic example of you've got to be really smart about isolating some of these daily matchups. And if you're doing that, if you're betting daily on the card, I do think they are a team that you can isolate pretty well. And if it's against especially pitchers who are having some command issues, they are not a team that really lets you get away with that. They have, I think, been pretty smart about how they've utilized admittedly pretty limited resources as far as the lineup goes, but you can't argue against that. I mean, at the end of the day, if you're Ollie Marmol, you're given the sort of roster from the front office that you were given, and you've got to make the most out of it. So it's a team I'm more interested in playing specific matchup-wise. I'm still not really a believer long-term, but again, when you watch them, it does sort of speak to the sort of narrative that we've thrown on them, and that does seem to be backed up. I don't have any reason to push back against that here and understand that this has been a legitimate start, not really done by any sort of previous Cardinal devil magic where you just think, okay, this is ridiculous. I do think what they're doing is relatively legit, even though I don't know that the staying power is all that great.
Yep, I could see this easily being a team that's right around 500. Maybe they're not making the postseason, but those win totals that were like hovering in the very low 70s, I think they can exceed that. That's where I'm right now falling on them. And then with regards to the card on Thursday, we already talked about a few of the NL Central teams. They're going to be in action, but anything else that you're going to be taking a look at, it could be one of those games from the NL Central that we haven't mentioned yet because the Cubs are in action, the Red Sox are in action, the Pirates are in action. Actually, the entire NL Central's in action. So there's that, but anything else that might be catching your attention as well?
Not for the Thursday card. It is a pretty light card, admittedly. I am fully in college baseball prep mode right now for postseason, but I have been kind of looking ahead, trying to do my homework ahead of time just to have a couple of isolated spots I want to look at. I'll give you one guy for the weekend. I know I mentioned we started talking some of these enigmatic teams and clubs that are struggling on offense. Texas Rangers are obviously a great candidate for that. It's funny, Peter Lambert, I would have never in a million years going into the year thought, I want to back this guy. But for Houston, he gets Texas over the weekend. I think that's a Saturday game. And like Lambert had a 6.50 or so ERA career getting into the season. And yet his numbers have actually been really good. I've wanted to see where could the command go and could it get better? But you get a Texas team that is, super free swinging. They're bottom 10 in pretty much every category. They strike out a ton. And even though he got touched up early in his last start, still went 7 strong, gave up 3 runs, only walked 1, which is, to me, the bigger piece of the puzzle for Lambert. Had a great start against the Dodgers a couple times back in the rotation. If we're being honest, Houston's kind of desperate at this point to find anybody with a pulse in the rotation. Lambert kind of out of nowhere, but maybe this eventually, it's like a squeeze the juice out of the orange situation. Maybe it comes back to earth eventually, but I would still like to believe that he does have something in the tank here and gives them another solid outing for the 3rd time in a row.
Yep, with Peter Lambert, he's actually impressed me as well, mainly because, that Astros team, boy, the pitching has not been great, to say the least. And for the Astros, they tried Care Bears night on Tuesday. Maybe they should have had the Grumpy Bear that threw out the first pitch and bounced it 15 feet in front of the plate come out of the bullpen, because at this point, I think that the Grumpy Bear could be doing as good as some of these guys. Looking at you, Angel de los Santos. But that said, Ben, I know you're always doing a great job. Whether you're coming in fresh, whether you're coming in out of the bullpen, what have you, you're always doing an amazing job for us here at VSIN with all of your play-by-play work and so much more. So love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Hey, appreciate it as always. Ben _Wilson_1 have the WAC baseball tournament coming up here from Mesa, Arizona. Those games are all on ESPN Plus. Final year of the WAC, so it'll be somewhat bittersweet. But a conference that has produced a lot of MLB greats over the years. Rhys Hoskins, James Outman, Jacob Wilson, just to name a couple. So I'm really excited to see what sort of baseball we get and what prospects of tomorrow we'll get to see there in person.
Absolutely. The WAC has produced a lot. Apparently a lot of Wilsons as well. Jacob Wilson, Ben Wilson. We always love that here. Yes, absolutely. And every single time Ben joins me, always lends such great insights. So big thanks to Ben for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we bet them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Always great to be joined by Ben Wilson. He does such great work here at VSiN. He does an amazing job with all of his play-by-play work and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So a big thanks to Ben for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_D1. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games in time order, and the Interleague games are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So, but if we get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card, it's the Rockies on the road against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Carmen Mulzinski is on the bump for the Buccos, and Jay Stolander is on the bump for Colorado. And Colorado between +140 to +158 underdogs, -166, -190. That number on the Buccos with a total of 8. Under is -115. The over is -105. If you're looking to lay run half with the Pirates, that's between +125 and +130, and that's where I landed on this one. I was pretty much willing to take even money or better on this Pirates run line. Recognize that Mulzinski doesn't necessarily have the world's greatest ERA, but You dig in a little bit deeper, and you see that he has pitched much better than what the raw ERA would indicate, about a 4.50 ERA, but he's been giving up only about a half a home run per 9 innings. He's been able to get 9.2 strikeouts per 9, so fielding independent is a 2.84. Meanwhile, for Dollander, he's put it together this year, 3.38 ERA, 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, 9.8 strikeouts per 9, but he's backed up by a Rockies team that's only averaging about 3.8 runs per game away from him. Bullpen with Victor Vodnik starting to act up. That's been a little bit shaky as well. Started off the season very well, and I will say Antonio Senzatella, sub-2 ERA for the team. That's been solid. Jimmy Erget has been able to give you some solid innings, but for the Colorado Rockies, they always have those big home and road splits with regards to their offense, just because going to and from elevation, that really takes a lot out of you, and you need a little bit more of the likes of Kyle Karros, Ezekiel Tovar. These are guys that don't give you a ton of power. They're both hitting below a 220 now. Troy Johnson has been hitting darn near 300. Tyler Freeman, Edouard Julien, these guys hitting above a 250. So they're moving line, and I like what I've seen out of Jake McCarthy. He's been able to give you over 350 on base. Like him coming over from the Diamondbacks. Main power guys have been Hunter Goodman along with Mickey Moniak. Both give you 10 plus home runs. And for the Pirates, this is a top 5 team in terms of run creation at home. They've got some pretty demonstrative home and road splits, and Pittsburgh, not necessarily the most, shall we say, lively ballpark for hitters. So I do think that this is going to go downward a little bit, but still, Brandon Lau, Antonio Cruz entered into yesterday with 10 home runs apiece, and both hitting above a 260. With Lau, he's been able to give you about a 365 on base, and Cruz 15 stolen bases. That has been incredible for the team. And then you've got Ryan O'Hearn give you about a 365 on base. Brian Reynolds, Nick Gonzalez, Spencer Horwitz, all above a 375 on base. You've seen Connor Griffin start to put it all together as well, and for the Pirates, about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. Gregory Soto has actually been really good this year. Do think that might toil up a little bit moving forward, but Evan Sisk has been able to give you a sub-2 ERA. Mason Montgomery has been solid. Some of the guys that you rely upon a little bit more, like Justin Lawrence, who had a sub-3 ERA last season, he's above a 6. You know that that's going to be going downward a little bit. Isaac Madsen has been a little bit shaky as well, but I do think that Molzinski goes out there, gives you a really good start, and Rockies just don't do their part with his total. So I might tell 7.7, like the under, and with the Pirates willing to take the run line, anything of plus money will do there. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. It's the Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They play host to the Washington Nationals as Foster Griffin goes for the Nats. Chase Burns is on the bump for the Reds. The Reds are between minus 155 to minus 163 favorites, plus 135 to plus 140 is that number on Washington. Total is 8 to 8.5. On the 8, over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. On the 8.5, under is minus 120. Over is even, and I do like the over. I set my total at an 8.9. You've got a Nationals bunch that certainly has been able to do a great job with regards to their offense, averaging 5.4 runs per game going into yesterday. Now they've been much more effective against left-handed pitching rather than righties, but still, you've got a pair of guys in CJ Abrams along with James Wood who have a combined 20-plus home runs between the two of them, and both of these guys have been incredible in finding a way on base. Both of these guys give you over a 365 on base. It's what you're going to be able to get out of the other guys. You've had the likes of Brady House, Curtis Mead, Naseem Nunez, Keibert Ruiz, hitting below 235 with not necessarily a ton of power. Jacob Young, throw him in there as well. So Dallin Lyle is very big. He's giving you like a 330 on base. Joey Weimer has been solid as well. And for the Washington Nationals, you've got a guy in Foster Griffin who has come back from overseas, and he has actually been amazing this year. 2.12 ERA, but the 4-way fielding dependent points towards a lot of negative regression. 1.2 home runs, just under 3 walks per 9, and he's not necessarily a strikeout artist. And on the flip side, Chase Burns is doing for some regression as well. 2.11 ERA with a 376 fielding dependent, 1.1 home runs, 3.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. For the Reds, they're now about a league average team with their bullpen ERA. They were really good to start the season, but then things pulled on them a little bit. But having Emilio Pagano on the injury list, honestly, I think it's a good thing for the team. You've had the likes of Connor Phillips, Sam Moe, Brock and Roll Burke. I'll give you sub 350 ERA, throwing there Pierce Johnson, Graham Ashcraft as well, and his Nationals bunch is in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Brad Lord being a really good long guy. Paxton Schultz has been able to give you some nice innings as well, but you've seen Gus Varlin really hit the skids recently. He's above a 4.5 ERA. Richard Dickey Lovelady has actually been quite solid thus far this season, but I don't see that withstanding. Mitchell Parker, the long guy, has not been able to get the job done. Zeno Perez is just absolutely terrible as well. And for the Reds, I do think that their offense is starting to get ignited a little bit. It's been mostly Cousin Sal Stewart along with Ellie De La Cruz, a pair of guys that will be able to give you 10 plus home runs runs thus far this season, but all of a sudden JJ Bleday over a 400 on base. You've had Nathaniel Lowe be able to give you 5+ home runs. He's moving lines. Spencer Steer is starting to give you a little bit more. You need a bit more out of the likes of Matt McClain, Tyler Stevenson, TJ Friedel, Will Benson, these guys hitting below 210, but they are starting to find it a little bit more, and as we know, they call it Great American Small Park, so I told it at 8.9. I do like the over. For the Reds, set their money line at a -166. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, you're going to be fine that at about +135. I needed at least a +122, so I sided with the run line to go along with the over. 955, 956 on the card. It's the Padres on the road against the Brewers. Kyle Harrison goes for the Crew. Griffin Canning is on the bump for the Padres. Padres between +116 to +124 underdogs. Meanwhile, -135 to -145, that number on the Brewers. It is a total. Over is -110 to a -105. The under is anywhere between -110 to a -115, and I was willing to go up to a -155 on this Brewers money line. For Griffin Canning, just his third start of the season, but it's very clear that the walks issues that plagued him last year, they're probably going to once again this year. For Canning last year, he posted up a solid ERA, but he was giving up 4.1 walks per 9 innings. Now, he has been able to get quite a few strikeouts, 12 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings in his first 2 starts of the season, but now 4.8 walks per 9 innings, that does have to have you feeling a little bit skittish there. He was solid with the Mets last year with that 3.77 ERA, but again, he was just giving out a lot of free passes, and now you've got a Brewers team that they actually entered in the series dead sinking last in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but you get back Christian Yelich, you get back as well Jackson Chourio, Andrew Vaughn, and now you've got a very fearsome lineup because you've got so many guys that are able to move the line, even with Brandon Lockridge now on the injury list. You've got someone like a Garrett Mitchell who might not hit for a lot of average, but he'll give you over 325 on base. Jake Bauers has been able to give you 5+ home runs. He's hitting like a 265. You've had William Contreras hitting over a 280, a Bryce Terang over a 400 on base. So these guys are doing a great job of mixing and matching, and the Padres going into yesterday in their last 25 games, that includes a series out there in Mexico City, averaging just 4 runs per game. Just nobody's moving the line for this team. Like Jackson Merrill, the currently injured Jake Cronenworth, which that's probably not a bad thing for the team, Gavin Sheets, Nick Castellanos. You've got so many guys that are hitting at 225 or lower. Manny Machado, he's been able to give you like 6 home runs, but hitting below the middle side of 200. For Fernando Tatis Jr., still stuck on 0 home runs. He's honestly been one of the best in terms of batting average for the team, but man, that's not saying much. Like other than Miguel Andujar, nobody's hitting above a 270 for the team, and the Padres, they continue to be rock solid with their bullpen. Jason Adam, along with Mason Miller, a really good 8th and 9th inning duo. Both are giving you a sub-2 ERA. Last year, they were number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA. This year, it's a little bit elevated because Jeremiah Estrada, Adrian Morejon, both of these guys who have an ERA above a 350, but they're both rounding into form. Yuki Matsui coming off the injury list should be able to help them out, and Brewers have been relatively league average with their bullpen in terms of ERA. Trevor McGill, Abner Uribe had issues to start the season, but Grant Anderson, Aaron Ashby, DL Turnip Hall, Brian Fitzpatrick, I'll give you sub 325 ERA, and I really love what I've seen out of Kyle Harrison. We were talking about it with Ben Wilson. Really feels like this man has taken the next stride forward. As for Harrison, he might not be posting up quite Jacob Mizorowski numbers, but still, 241 ERA, giving up 0.8 home runs with 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been superb, and I think that the Brewers get the job done here. Semi-total 7.7, like the under, and for the Brewers, I'm willing to take the money line up to a -155. 957, 958 on the card. It's the Cubs on the road against the Braves, as Chris Sale hopes to not sell for the Braves, and Ben Brown goes for the Cubs. Cubs who find themselves as a underdog here between +135 to a +140. Meanwhile, -155 to -165. That number on Atlanta. 7.5 is the total. Over is -115, and the under is -105. I did set a total here of a 7.8. I do like the over for Chris Sale. He has been remarkable thus far this season, but he is facing off against a Cubs team that has been in the top 6 in terms of run creation, and he might be doing for a little bit of regression on this 220 ERA. I still think that he's going to put together an amazing season, but closer to a 346 fielding dependent. He's giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, still getting good swing and miss stuff. 10.3 strikeouts, 2.2 walks per 9 innings, so I think that he's in for a good year. And for Ben Brown, in a small sample size, he's been great this year. 182 ERA. He's only given up 1 home run in 29 2/3 innings. Much of this came out of the bullpen, though, when he was in the role of a starter last year for much of it. He was posting up more like a 5.92 ERA. I don't think he's as bad as he was last season, but I also don't think that he's as good as he's been thus far this season, so I think that's somewhere between A and B. He's still also not necessarily completely stretched out in terms of his starts as well, so he might only be able to go like 4 or so innings, and it's a Cubs bullpen that has Porterage, Riley Martin, Caleb Theobar, Hunter Harvey, and so many others currently on the injury list. That absolutely kills this team. Now for the Cubs, you've been able to get plenty of power out of Ian Happ. He has been anything but hapless. 9 home runs, but a lot of these guys are not necessarily hitting for the world's greatest batting averages. Like Dansby Swanson is up to 6 home runs, but he's been hitting right around the middle of the line of 200. Michael Busch has not been what he he was a season ago. Love what I'm seeing out of Nico Horner, 345 on base. Power's been up a little bit. Moises Ballesteros is starting to regress a little bit as well. He's down to about a 316 on base. Seiya Suzuki has been great though, 395 on base. Carson Kelly along with Miguel Amaya are moving line, but for the Braves, they're currently numero uno in terms of run creation. This despite the fact that you've got Ronald Acuna Jr. on the injury list. Matt Olson, he's on pace for like 50 home runs right now with a 372 on base. Drake Baldwin, he's been able to give you 10 plus bombs. He's giving you a 375 on base. Mauricio Dubon is moving the line. Michael Harris is hitting above 300 with power. Like Austin Riley hasn't even gotten going yet, and now you're getting back many of your catchers with Sean Murphy coming off the injury list. So I do think that this is a very fearsome Atlanta Braves lineup. And then when it comes to this bullpen, they've been in the top 5 in terms of ERA since Tyler Kinley was picked up at the trade deadline, a sub-3 ERA in a Braves uniform. Robert Suarez, Raisel Iglesias, a great 8th and 9th inning duo. Aaron Bummer has been a little bit of a bummer, but the rest of the bullpen has been solid. And for the Cubs, while I like Jacob Webb, Daniel Palencia, all those injuries, that hurt some in the bullpen as well. So semi-total 7.8 here at the 7.5, like the over-end for the Braves. I was willing to take a shot on the run line at a plus 120 or higher. Right now, seeing that plus 135, plus 140, we'll go with the run line and the over. 959, 960 on the card. The LA Dodgers are playing goes to the San Francisco Giants. Landon Roop is on the bump for the Gigantes, and you've got Emmett Sheehan who goes for the Dodgers. The total on this game is anywhere between 8 to 8.5. On the 8.5, the under has juice of between minus 125 to a minus 130. Over is between a plus 105 to a plus 110. On the 8, the under is minus 115. Over is minus 105, and Dodgers between minus 164 to a minus 175 favorites, between plus 142 to a plus 150. Then around the Giants, if you're looking to lay a run half with the Dodgers, that's between plus 125 to a plus 130, and I'm going to be willing to take the Dodgers on the run line. I recognize that for Emmett Sheehan thus far this season, it's not necessarily been the world's greatest go of it for him, but I do think that there's some positivity with him. 479 ERA, 382 fielding dependent, 10.9 strikeouts, 2.5 walks per 9 innings. The thing that has really been hurting him has been the deep ball. He's given up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. A good elixir to that, going up against a San Francisco Giants lineup that is currently dead, sinking last in all of baseball in terms of run creation. They just have not been great with that regard. And additionally, for Emmett Sheehan, he's had very wild home and road splits throughout his career. 268 career home ERA, given up about 1 home run per 9 innings, 5.75 ERA on the road, 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. And you got a guy in Landon Roop who's gotten off to a nice start to the season here for the Giants. 3.09 ERA, he's only given up 1 home run over the course of 43 and a third innings. Has had his struggles with the Dodgers, so 5.71 ERA in his 5 career appearances. And for the Dodgers, it's been a little bit of a doldrum for them on offense when they've been at home. At home, they're averaging less than 4.5 runs per game, closer to about 6 runs per game. Away from home, I fully expect them to be able to get online. You know, Mookie Betts coming off the injury list. That helps to see him out quite a bit. And plenty of guys are still moving line. Andy Paz, he's been able to hit above a 300. He's been able to give you 9 home runs. Max Muncy has been able to hit 10 plus bombs. He's been able to give you just below a 400 on base. You're having a guy like an Alex Call hitting a 300. Kyle Tucker, he's been able to get online in terms of being able to get on base. The power hasn't necessarily been there for Key, Freddie Freeman, or Will Smith. All these guys between 3 or 4 home runs have to feel like it's coming sooner rather than later. And for the San Francisco Giants, Rafael Devers and William Adames, these are 2 guys that have combined for 8 home runs this season. Neither has given you over a 310 on base. That's not great. And I do have guys that are finding a way to be able to reach base, like you've been able to have Jungle Lee and Eloy Ramos in the outfield. Enter into yesterday, hitting above a 270. Jesus Rodriguez, in a small sample size, has looked solid, and Luis Reyes continues at above a 300, but just no power whatsoever for the Giants. This is a unit that is in the top 12 in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got a lot of guys like Matt Gage, Caleb Killian, Keaton Wynn that really come from out of nowhere. Sub-3 ERA for those guys. They do have Eric Miller on the injury list, but overall, these guys have been pretty solid, and now they're getting Yoli Piguero off the injury list. And for the LA Dodgers, this is a team that's in the top 10 with regards to their own bullpen ERA as well. Alex Vesia is still posting up a sub-350 ERA. Had a little bit of a rough one earlier in the season, but you know that he's going to be all bounced back. Tanner Scott had a rough year last year, but 2-3 years ago, he's one of the better relievers in all of baseball. Looks like he's reclaiming that former glory, and he's needed to with Edwin Diaz being on the injury list. He's been able to supply a sub-2 ERA. Jack Dreyer has been solid as a long guy with a sub-325 ERA as well. So I do think that there's a lot of positivity here for the Dodgers. Been a rough last week and a half for them, but do think that they get online here. I was willing to lay up to a minus 107 with regards to this run line right now. Find that more around about plus 125, plus 130. I'm in on the Dodgers on the run line, and I did set my total here at an 8.7. So right now seeing between 8 to 8.5. I do like the over as well. 961, 962 on the card. The Astros play host to the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo is on the bump for Seattle. Mike Burrows goes for Houston. Houston is a underdog here between even money 120 to plus 116. And between minus 118 to a minus 132, that number on Seattle with a total of 9. Over is minus 110 to a minus 115. Under is minus 105 to a minus 110. And I do like the over. I did set my total at a 9.1. Luis Castillo last year was posting up about a 2.60 ERA at home, closer to a 4.71 ERA away from home. So he has had some very big home and road splits over the last few years since joining the Seattle Mariners and just hasn't been good anywhere this year. 6.57 ERA, 4.55 fielding dependent, 1.4 home runs, 3.1 walks per 9 innings. But still, this is not the Luis Castillo that we all know and love. Mike Burrows, he hasn't necessarily been amazing thus far this season for the Astros, but he's been a little bit better. 5.01 ERA, fielding dependent more in the neighborhood of a 4.64. So both of these guys have relatively similar fielding dependence. Burrows giving up 1.6 home runs to 2.8 walks per 9 innings. Both guys hovering right around about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And the big thing that the Mariners are going to have going for them in this game is that they've got the far better bullpen ERA. As for the Astros, dead second last in terms of bullpen ERA, AJ Blueball, Angel de Los Santos. I mean, man, you're hard-pressed to find a guy that has a sub-4 ERA. You've been able to have Kai Wei Tang be able to give you some relatively solid innings, and I guess that Brian King has not been bad either, but man, everyone else has been rough. And for the Mariners, they're really getting bit by the injury bug. Matt Brash, Gabe Spire are on the injury list. Jose Ferrer is currently on the paternity list, so congratulations to him. But Edward Bizarro, Cooper Criswell, they've been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Andres Munoz still posting up over a 5 ERA, but he seems to be rounding into form. When he's at peak form, he's one of the best relievers in all of baseball, and some of the mix and match guys have been pretty solid in this bullpen, as well as you've been able to get a little bit more of something out of someone like a Nick Davila, who in a few appearances has been able to do a solid job. But for the Mariners, this is a bottom 10 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation away from home. It's Cal Raleigh. He's just been taking a big dump. He's finally, I believe, snapped out of that like 0 for 35 slump or something like that, but still hitting for a 249 on base with 7 home runs. Julio Rodriguez, after a rough start to the season, 7 bombs, 270 average. Randy Arozarena continues to move the line with about a 390 on base, and then we've got J.P. Crawford hitting for no average whatsoever, but a 360 on base. Not often that you see a 200 average and a 360 on base, but he's been able to do a solid job there. And for the Astros, their big leg up is that this has still been a top 8 team in terms of run creation, even with Jose Altuve looking a little bit long in the tooth. He still is going to give you like a 330 or so on base. Yordan Alvarez has been incredible this year, over a 4 on base. He's been able to supply this team with 14 plus home runs. Christian Walker has been over a 350 on base. He's been able to give you about 9 to 10 home runs as well. So these guys have been able to do a solid job there. Even Brendan Shoemake has been able to give you a bit of production as well, hitting above a 300. You've had Isaac Paredes, not necessarily for power, but moving the line, 350 on base. So I think that you get a higher scoring game, set by total 9.1. And for the Astros, plus 113 or better, going to look at that money line to go along with the over. 963, 964 on the card. It's the Royals. They're going to be on the road against the Chicago White Sox, as Anthony K says okay to another start. And Chris with the K, Bubich goes for the Royals. Royals between minus 126 and minus 142 favorites, between plus 115 to plus 120. Then around Chicago, 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. On the 8.5, over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And I did set my total at an 8.2 pretty much everywhere aside from FanDuel as an 8.5, and personally would rather take an 8.5 to the under rather than an 8 to the over, mainly because for the Kansas City Royals, they just have not generated any offense away from home. They're averaging 3.05 runs per game away from home. That was going into the day on Wednesday. Another team below 3.36 runs per game, and Royals are averaging a full 2 runs per game more at home rather than away from home because they moved the fences in at Kauffman Stadium to be able to help out there. Now, good news for the Royals is that Bobby Witt Jr. has 6 home runs over the last 30 days, so he's starting to be able to get online there. He's been able to hit above a 300, but Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, even though both of these guys have given you 5 to 6 home runs apiece, both are below a 290 on base percentage. With Perez, it's down to 237. You just need more there. Lane Thomas, he does have a 360 on base, but he's only hitting a 205. You've had the catcher spot be a sore spot for this team. You do have Isaac Collins give you about a 350 on base along Sterling Marte, but just not a lot of power on this team with Pasquantino and Perez struggling. And for the White Sox, no shortage of power here. Montaka Murakami, 15 plus home runs, only hitting for about a 230 with regards to the average, but a 363 on base. Miguel Vargas, 9 bombs. Again, not a great batting average, but a 382 on base. Colson Montgomery hitting at 220, but again, 9 plus home runs, 325 on base out of him. Now you do need more out of someone like an Andrew Benintendi, who's been hitting below 235. The entire catcher spot with Edgar Quiero, Romo, and company. These guys need to do a little bit more, and both of these bullpens are leaving something to be desired. With the Royals, they're in the bottom 6 in terms of opening area. I do like Matt Strom. I think that he's going to pick it up a little bit along with Lucas Ursage, but they're clearly missing Carlos Estevez. Alex Lang is posting up like a 6 ERA. The mix and match guys like Steven Cruz have not been great. And for the White Sox, you've had Seranthony Dominguez not be awful as far as the season. He and Jordan Hicks both below at 4.50 ERA along Sean Newcomb. And Brian Hudson, Grant Taylor, sub 3.50 ERAs. This team is still in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, but they haven't been too bad. And when it comes to the starting pitching, that's really where the difference is, because Anthony Kay, he has come back from overseas and he looked a little bit better in his last start, but it's really hard to back this guy because he's got a 4.89 ERA, just not a lot of deception here. He's never been a strikeout artist, and he clearly still is not. 6.4 strikeouts, 4.4 walks per 9 innings, so a 5.80 fielding independent. And I just am a fan of Chris with a K Bubich. For as badly as I talked about the Royals here over the last minute or two, I'm Chris with a K Bubich, 3.50 ERA, 3.48 fielding independent. Last year, more of a 2.55 ERA. He's still only giving up 0.6 home runs, 9.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's right on par with what he did last season when he was an all-star. So for the Royals, I'm going to be willing to back Chris with the K Bubich. I set this money line price at a minus 129, so I'm willing to go with that minus 126 I'm seeing right now and do like the under. Semi-total at an 8.2, 965, 966 on the card. It's the Tigers on the road against the Mets. Nolan McLean is on the bump for the Mets, and Kadir Montero is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit is an underdog between plus 143 to a plus 152. Meanwhile, minus 165 to minus 180. That number on the Mets, 7.5 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I'm going to side with the Tigers. He needed at least a plus 152, so I need to take that plus 152 that I see out there right now, but I do like them on the money line, and it's not because I don't like Nolan McLean. I think that McLean is actually the modern-day Jacob deGrom at this point, because he has been tremendous for this Mets team. 2.78 ERA, 2.39 fielding independent. He gets a bunch of punch-outs, 11.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, 0.6 home runs per 9, but the offense around him has been terrible. This Mets team is in the bottom 3 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Juan Soto and MJ Melendez have been able to move line. Both of these guys are hitting above a 250. They are pretty much the lone two guys, other than AJ Ewing, who has seen less than 20 at-bats, that have been consistently seeing at-bats are hitting above a 245 for the team right now. Mark Vientos has been able to give you a little bit of something with regards to hitting about a 245, but he's below 300 on base. As a matter of fact, the lone two guys that were in the starting lineup with above a 290 on base yesterday, Soto along with Ewing. Like, you just need more out of all these guys, and none of them are hitting for power. Like, right now, your leader in home runs, I believe, has 5, might be 6, but I mean, my goodness, like, nobody's producing any power for this team. And then on the flip side for the Detroit Tigers, the power outage has been there a little bit as well, but at the very least, you've got Riley Green, Kevin McGonigal, Cole Keith, who are at least hitting a 3-iron for you. Now, the bottom lineup, Wencio Perez, Matt Vierling, Spencer Torkelson, Zach McKinstry, Zach Short, all these guys are hitting at 210 or lower. So it's a very top-heavy lineup right now. They've been dealing with some injuries. Gary Carpenter has been able to have a few bombs, but has been able to move line. And then for Torkelson, 325 on base to go along with that 205 or so average, but also for the Tigers, they're mixing and matching a lot with the bullpen because currently they've got quite a few starters. Casey Mize, Streak Skubal on the injury list. Tyler Holton has seen his ERA go above a 4, but he seems to be rounding in form. Kyle Finnegan, Brian Herter, Bert Smith, these are guys give you a sub 350 ERA. Really don't trust in Kenley Jansen, but at the very least, he's not Devin Williams, who's been absolutely awful for both New York teams over the last 2 seasons. Luke Weaver has went down the toilet bowl. He's posting up over a 4 ERA. You've got Brooks Raley, Oscar Brisbane. These guys would be able to give you sub 3 ERA, like what I'm seeing out of Austin Warren, but the fact that Craig Kimbrell is employed on this team is not great, to say the least. And for Kadir Montero, he's not as good of a starter as Nolan McLean, but still, he's really improved himself thus far this season. For Montero, never has really been a strikeout guy prior to this season, fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, and it's not like he's blowing away the world this year, 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.7 home runs, 1.8 walks allowed per 9 innings, 3.18 ERA, 3.24 fielding dependent. I think that he goes out there and gives the Tigers a chance to win. I like the under, so I told 7.4, and with the Tigers plus 152 or better, like the money line, 967, 968 on the card. It's Marlins. They're going to be on the road against the Minnesota Twins. This should be Connor Prelip going for the Twins. Right now, the betting board reads to be determined, but it should be Prelip. And then Braxton Garrett, he is the surprise starter here for the Miami Marlins, was supposed to be Robbie Snelling. And right now, that total is 8.5 to 9. On the 8.5, over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. On the 9, under is minus 120. And the over is even with Minnesota. You're going to be finding them anywhere between minus 123 to minus 130. And between plus 110 to a plus 115. That number on the Marlins, and up to a minus 128 is what it'd be willing to lay on Prelip on the money line, assuming that we get him. I haven't seen any word that it's going to be anyone outside of him, so I'm not sure why the betting board reads to be determined, but that said, for Prelip, in a small sample size, he's been able to do a pretty solid job here for the Minnesota Twins, as he's been posting up a 3.32 ERA. Strikeout stuff has been good, just a hair under 10 strikeouts for 9 innings. I know that's a small sample size thus far, but He's doing a good job keeping things out in front of him. His walks per nine rate just hair above a 3. He's not giving up a ton of hard contact, so he's been able to do a solid job, unlike most Minnesota Twins pitchers, because right now they are a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Cody Funderburk has been able to give you a sub 250 ERA, but then you've got Luis Garcia, Anthony Banda, Yandres Gomez, Eric Orze, Taylor Rogers, Justin Topa, like all these guys that have above a 4.25 ERA, and you remove Orze, I think everyone else has a 5 ERA, so that's not great. And I do think that there's a little bit of regression coming with regards to this Twins lineup as well. Byron Buxton, no regression here. He's been incredible. Another pair of home runs yesterday. He's got 15 home runs, and I think pretty much all of them have come in the last 35 days. So he's raking. You've got Brooks Woodley, give you about a 320 on base, functional power there. And I've actually really liked what I've seen as well out of Austin Martin, who's been hitting above a 300. But then Cody Clemens, Matt Wallner, these guys had a 20-plus home runs last season. Neither of these guys are hitting above a 215 right now. It's been a lost cause for Royce Lewis. The injuries have just taken a lot from him. Lucas Shaw is hitting for like a 230 with no power whatsoever, so that's an issue. And for the Marlins, this is a bunch that they themselves are in the bottom 6 in terms of home runs out of par at bat basis. That should be going northward as they're getting back Christopher Morel and long Kyle Stowers off the injured list. They still do a great job in terms of finding way on base. So Lemix, Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, your top 3 hitters, are all hitting at least a 280 for this bunch, all above a 350 on base. And Hicks has been the main boom guy. 9+ home runs out of him. Pretty much nobody else on the roster has 5+ home runs. Jacob Marcy does a great job swiping bags, but the problem is he hits a $184 with that 309 on base. So they need a little bit more there. Owen Casey has had a rough go of it, but was able to get a home run yesterday. And the Miami Marlins do have the leg up in terms of their bullpen. As for this Miami Marlins team, they are a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that you've had Anthony Bender posting up an ERA that's above a 4. You've had some shakiness with likes of Calvin Fauché. They're just now getting Pete Fairbanks off the injury list, but Tyler Phillips, John King, these guys have been able to give you sub 225 ERA. Michael Peterson, great name, has been relatively presentable, but I just really don't have any faith here in Braxton Garrett. He's been getting his opportunities at the big league level like seemingly every single year, and every single time he gets one, it's rough. Last saw him at the big league level in the 2024 season, 5.35 ERA. He was giving up only about 1 walk per 9 innings, but he was just pitching to so much contact. For Garrett, it's just really hard to know what you're going to be getting out of him because he missed all of 2025 due to injury. He's made a few minor league rehab starts, and he's looked relatively solid, sub 3 ERA out of those, but still giving up 4.3 walks per 9 innings. The command has not been there the way that it was in the past. I just don't think that him making his first start since 2024 is something that I want to be a part of with the Twins. One life to minus 127 on the money line, and semi-total at an 8.7 between an 8.5 to a 9. Would rather take the 9 to the under rather than the 8.5 to the over. 969, 970 on the card. The Cardinals are going to be on the road against the Athletics. Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the Athletics. Michael McGreevy goes for the Cardinals. Cardinals do find themselves right around about even money to plus 103 underdogs, minus 113 to minus 120. Then around the Athletics, 9.5 is the total. Overs minus 110 to minus 120. Unders even to minus 110, and I like the over. Semi-total 9.8. Ball is just flying out there in Sacramento, and you've got a pair of guys that are really not getting a lot of strikeouts. And Jacob Lopez was actually really good last year. He was getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. I don't know where that swing and misses went, but it is not there right now because he's got a 6.11 ERA, 6.51 fielding dependent, 7.1 strikeouts to 6.1 walks per 9 innings with 2 bombs allowed per 9 innings. He is getting absolutely lambasted. And for Michael McGreevy, he's doing a nice job not hurting himself. Not a swing and miss guy, only about 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1 home run, 2 walks allowed per 9 innings, 2.18 ERA. He's going for a little bit of regression, but all in all, he's been solid, and they're going to need him to continue to be solid because this is a Cardinals team that's in the bottom 8 in terms of bullpen ERA. Ryan Stanek, Matt Savanson posting up an ERA well above a 5 has been an issue. Jojo Romero has been a little bit shaky to begin the season, but now he's back down to a 3.1 ERA. Riley O'Brien, Gordon Gassefo have been able to give you good innings, and it's a Cardinals team that in games played away from home, they've been a top 8 team in terms of run creation. Obviously, Jordan Walker has been your main man, hitting darn near 300 with 11 home runs as far this season, but Alec Burleson will give you over a 350 on base. Ivan Herrera right around about a 400 on base. JJ Weatherald only about a 242 average, but 8 home runs, closer to a 350 on base. Nathan Church has been able to give you 5 bombs at about 120 at bats. So like what these guys are doing. And for the Athletics, the offense is starting to rise up. Brent Rooker, he was awful in like the first 2 weeks of the season, hits the injured list. Since then, he's been able to give you about 3 home runs over the last 7 or so days. You still need a little bit more from the bottom of the fold. Jonah Heim, Durrell Hernandez, Lawrence Butler, these are guys that are not really producing but now you've got Henry Bolte, who made his MLB debut yesterday. Probably is going to take him a few games to be able to get acclimated to the MLB level, but that's going to be big for them. And Carlos Cortez hitting for like a 330 for this team. That's been solid. The Athletics are about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had a few guys like Hogan Harris, Justin Cerner, Joe Kuhnel. These have been guys that have been pretty presentable for you, are giving you a sub 415 ERA. Mark Leiter Jr. is just absolutely terrible for this team, and some of the long guys have just not been able to get the job done. And for Jacob Lopez, I just don't know if he finds that same form that he had a season ago. I'm much more willing to trust in McGreevy in this ordeal, and I think they get a lot of runs here. So I told 9.8. I like the over, and for the Cardinals, willing to lay up to a minus 110 on the money line, so getting even money or better, going to be in on them. And wrap things up with 971, 972. The Phillies are on the road against the Red Sox. Ranger Suarez is on the bump for the Red Sox, and it's old Jesus Luzardo on the bump for the Phils. Phillies are between minus 110 to minus 120 favorites, even money to minus 105. That number on Boston, 7.5 is the total. The over is anywhere between even money to minus 115, unders between minus 105 to a minus 120, and I like the Red Sox here. Set them at a minus 132. There should be loads and loads of positivity, by the way, coming here for Jesus Luzardo. You just don't see a guy post up a 297 field independent, 11.7 strikeouts, a 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, and own a 5.77 ERA, but that's where he's at right now, and he was here last year as well. Like the first 2 months of the season, he was great. He was getting strikeouts, wasn't giving up the deep ball last year, but I don't know if he's tipping pitches or what is happening, but he's just posting up a fielding demand that's like 3 points lower than his ERA. Like, it's unexplainable. And then for Ranger Suarez, he's been rock solid this far this season. I had a few shaky starts to begin the season, but 2.77 ERA, 0.7 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings. Not a strikeout artist, but it'll get you like 8 to 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. Both of these offenses are in the bottom 10 right now in the big leagues in terms of run creation, and both teams have just had an issue with regards to many of their infielders. Like, you take a look at the Philadelphia Phillies, Trey Turner down for what is hitting down for like a 240. You just expect a lot more out of him. Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, both below 265 on base. JT Realmuto sitting like a 230. You need more there. And for the Red Sox, pretty much all of their catchers, aside from Christian Wong, who's only seen a few at-bats as far this season, they're not moving the line. Trevor Story's at like a 250 on base. Right now, the trade for Caleb Durbin is blowing up in their face. Out there in the outfield, Jaron Duran, he's giving you like a 241 on base, but they still at the very least for the Red Sox have Wilson Contreras, 371 on base, 8+ home runs. Wilder Abreu, he's been able to 300, he's been able to give you 6+ home runs, so these guys have been relatively solid, and I just have more faith in the Red Sox bullpen as well. For the Phillies, you do get Yohan Duran off the injured list, and Ryan Kirkeringa was a little bit banged up. He's been solid as well, but Brad Keller, 4+ ERA. Jose Alvarado has not been the same since the drug suspension. He, Jonathan Bolin, Tanner Banks, all supplying a 5+ ERA. Flip side for the Red Sox, Aroldis Chapman, if it weren't for Mason Miller, would be the best closer in all of baseball right now. They're getting Justin Slayton off the injured list, so that's going to help them out. Greg Weiser has not been himself, 5+ ERA, but that seems to be lowering. Garrett Woodlock, he's more around about a 3.50 ERA. He had a little bit of shakiness to begin the season, but he's still a relatively good long guy, and I do think that for the Red Sox, they do get to Luzardo here in that bullpen, and I do think that a pair of offenses that were in the top 8 in the big leagues in terms of run creation last year are in the bottom 10 right now. They see some positivity, so semi-tall year at an 8.3, like the over, and I do like the Red Sox up to a minus 131 on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSIN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Ben Wilson, always does great work here at VSIN. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter / X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Lord ZM, they mean does not matter. So, as per usual, please do send these into the timeline, and the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and I'm coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.